Welcome in, everybody. What is this, night 3? Our third recording, our third live for the top 40 countdown with Noles247. We're welcoming in a few more new guests as we have been trying to do throughout the series here. First, we started with Brendan, followed up with Mr. Dirty Dane Draper himself, and now we've got Mr. Bench, Chris Nee. Chris, you've been on the bench all day. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I wasn't on it that much. It was actually the trains ran on time. I was done by noon.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing when the trains run on time. That's always positive to get you in and out of the bench quickly. Zach, you've been driving from South Florida up to Tallahassee. Is that rumor confirmed?
That is confirmed. Been on the phone all day. It's been.
Now he's staying in a closet.
Yeah, it's like a freaking prison cell in here, man. I don't know what's going on.
He's got the white shirt on, the white walls, the white doors behind him, the white fan.
No shoelaces. That's how you know.
Shoelaces. Yeah. There's no padding on those walls, baby. He's good. He's good. All right, so we're gonna get people rolling in here. We're just kind of shooting the shit a little bit before everybody gets in here. We've been pretty fortunate to have pretty good crowds for the first two. I'm thinking we'll have a nice little crowd here when everybody finds out that you two are joining us. Chris, I wanted to give you a chance because Brendan apparently did a solo OTB today. Maybe he burned his house down. I don't know.
I have not listened to it. I only saw the message board post, but apparently nearly burned his house down, which is very on brand for Brendan.
I'm looking forward to listening to tomorrow morning. I wanted to give you 30 seconds to wax poetic about the baseball season, though.
Let's go.
Hey, that's how he feels about baseball.
He's speechless.
Chris is so happy he was speechless. All right, I think he's back. He's back.
No, it froze up for a moment there. I don't know. You were talking about Brendan trying to burn his house down. I'm not sure.
I wanted to give you 30 seconds to wax poetic about the baseball season.
I mean, it was fun. Brett did a phenomenal job covering it for us. I'm so happy we hired Brett. Brett's a friend, so I don't want to be biased and not admit that. But when I pushed for us to hire that dude to do baseball in this company, people were kind of like, that's not normal. You don't have a lot of baseball specific dudes in this company. And that's not to say Brett doesn't help us with football, because he does a phenomenal job in season of helping us. But that dude loves baseball. He's great at baseball. He knows baseball. He's built relationships over there at Helzer, and that team was fun to cover. And as a fan, just kind of sitting back and enjoying it, they exceeded my expectations. I was very happy for it. I actually went over there as a team returned today around 3:00, and James Tibbs is everything we try to tell you he is. He's a great human being. He sat there, got off the bus, took tons of pictures, signed autographs, bunch of hugs. He's just quality dude. And there's a lot of that on that baseball team. Tibbs just is sort of the personification of it. And no, they were fun. I mean, they had shortcomings as a pitching staff, and that caught up to them when you play basically a regional and then a super regional format in the College World Series. But no, they were enjoyable. Link Jarrett's a hell of a coach, and I think he's going to get FSU to the promised land for the first time ever in this program's history. I don't know when that will happen, but I believe it will happen under his guidance, because I think he is that dude.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun kind of getting in there. You saw a lot of people kind of finding their ways back into the baseball world.
So it's crazy to me. The baseball program here is so ultra successful long term. Yeah. But like, I know there were people that under 11, under Martin Sr., obviously kind of just accepted they're never going to win it. And then Meat was such a brief tenure that I don't really think it matters in the grand discussion of it all. But I feel like there were a lot of people that kind of came to it this year or returned to it this year who realized, like, man, they're going to have a real shot. He's a great coach. In the current climate, I think FSU is going to be able to field very good baseball teams. I think they're going to do what needs to be done via high school recruiting and portal recruiting to build very good baseball rosters. And they're going to have a real shot, and it's going to be fun. And, they went to Omaha. They played their backsides off. The first Tennessee game, we'll always have the check swing to discuss. It's going to be crazy in 15 years when we're still talking about a check swing. But we're going to still be talking about a check swing. And, it was what it was. But that team far exceeded my expectations going into the year. I figured they would get FSU a regional back in Tallahassee, which is supposed to be in Tallahassee. They did that, won a super, got to Omaha, won a couple games out there. It was fun.
It was fun. I'm kind of, I live in Delaware, so I'm in and out of baseball. I don't always have the games available to me up here. So when I can watch them and when I can check them out, I will. But it was a lot of fun to be able to turn on the ESPN and see Florida State back, featured on ESPN. Screw that network, but still being able to see them featured in games,
it feels
just really neat. It's nice for me.
It feels weird to be cheering for the Colt to win it all, but we're going to be cheering for Texas A&M because it's all this home, and it just kind of feels weird to me.
I can't.
Am I crazy? It felt like this baseball team felt a little bit like FSU's football team like 2 years ago.
In the sense that they liked each other and were rowing in the same direction.
Right. Like you see the program growth. You see a team that's probably outplaying kind of their talent level. Yeah. You see a team kind of coming together, unifying under a coach. It just felt, it gave that same feeling of like, yeah, this is going in a direction that's positive.
Yeah, you lose an ace in Cam Leiter. That's a guy that sets you up for your weekend, whether it's Friday or Saturday. He's sort of a bona fide dude with Jamie Arnold leading in the front of your rotation. Carson Dorsey has a relatively poor very end of the regular season / ACC tournament. He bounces back and is phenomenal in the postseason. You got Connor Whitaker, whose elbow is not in tip-top condition, goes out there and pitches his backside off. You got a whole lot of stories like that. And yeah, they were a easy group to cheer for. They were fun to watch. And they were cool. Like Brennan Oxford has the perfect mix of baseball crazy / veteran savvy that you want for a dude on a team. And then you got guys like James Tibbs who are bona fide dudes with Jaime and Cam. Like there was enough of a mix. And then Dinger comes in, Marco Dinges comes in and does a really good job. So it was a fun group. I think it's tough. I think a lot of that's created in real time in the season, in the moment. And this team definitely had that. Hopefully that stays. The one thing I know is Link Jarrett can coach. Yeah. You can ask Brett. The first time me and him went to a practice of Link Jarrett's, it was sort of like, oh yeah, that's the way it's supposed to look. That's going to be really fun. And I also think he knows what a baseball player looks like. So he's going to assemble a really good roster. And I think Micah Posey's a really good pitching coach too. So I feel confident in the future of the program. It's great that it's back on track because last year, season prior to this, that sucked. That's not what it's supposed to be. But sometimes you have to hit the bottom to kind of realize, what it is supposed to be. And we felt that with football. Now we feel with baseball. And it's pretty enjoyable when it gets back to what it's supposed to be.
There's a hell of a lot of parallels, in my opinion, between this football program and this baseball program. And we're going to get into players 20 to 11 for this football program. But first, Zach, you're going to be on the hot seat on this one, buddy. Last week, Trey, he put me on the grill about ranking Jalen Lucas number 10 overall. I accepted it. He had my feet on the fire. I wore that. I walked on coals. Kev, bring it up because we're gonna get to it pretty quickly here.
It was kind of a mistake, honestly. But
no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'll defend it to the ends of their. I don't know, man.
Richie Leonard,
number 20,
coming in number 20 overall in the composite. Let's take a look at all the rankings here. We're going to skip past that first name. I had him number 19. Brendan had him number 20. Kev had him at 14, which I think maybe on the other side of maybe a little bit lunacy. Chris Nee at 18, Trey at 19, Dean at 12. Dean is very bullish about Richie Leonard's importance, and Clay at 14. But Zach, 39th? Where did you just
why do you hate Richie Leonard?
So,
what's your problem with Richie Leonard? Is it because he went to UF?
I probably didn't do enough research on the starting offensive line group. But I now heard that Richie Leonard has a good chance to start on FSU's offensive line this upcoming year.
Don't talk depth charts on here, buddy. We do not talk depth charts up.
Well, I don't know anything as I wasn't out at practices because I'm now in South Florida. And I don't cover the team as in depth as the guys that are in Tallahassee, and then you guys I feel like are paying better attention to it just because I'm so entrenched in recruiting. But no, I mean Richie's going to be an important player for Florida State, especially if he has a chance to start. My thought process was, if he isn't starting, he plays guard. Nothing against Richie, but just I don't think it's a huge position that I'm worried about with Florida State. They have pretty solid depth there, I think. With a guy like Terrence Ferguson, Keandre Jones is kind of also in that conversation.
Bryson Estes,
yeah, Bryson Estes. Like all these guys are, 4-year, 5th-year veteran players at the college level. So just didn't view it as a huge priority position. And part of that ranking is obviously I miscalculated whether he'd be a starter or not.
Well, let me say this as the king of hot takes on the top 40 list. I think you defended yourself very well there.
Thank you, sir.
And people, some of the behind the scenes on some of the stuff that people don't realize. If you get down to 30 on these lists and you forget somebody, it's one of those deals where you got to decide, all right, am I going to wear this publicly or am I going to change up my entire list and I'll start re-ranking guys? Sometimes you just got to bite the bullet. I mean, it's
called being lazy.
Yeah, I missed Cam Riley entirely, and he's going to be a pretty decent.
I think Cam Riley.
I found linebackers to be a real pain in the ass ranking this.
It was because you felt like they all had,
I think Sean Murphy might start, but I think he might be the 4th best linebacker on this team.
I don't think Sean Murphy. Yeah,
I don't think long term he starts. I'm saying game 1 type.
I think Cam Riley has a way better shot to start than Sean Murphy, from what I've heard.
He definitely has a skill set that's more unique.
Like ceiling is far higher than either of those two guys.
Oh yeah, he's a 2nd-year player.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
that position is one that cost me the most. Him hauling.
I am Mr. Linebackers not important, but I actually found myself ranking linebackers higher than a lot of people, which because in the end it was crazy, but I think they're going to play more sub-package stuff this year with 3 linebackers and do some different things. So I don't know that to be true, but I just feel that way about how they built this defense.
Coach AB out here betting on Randy.
Well, I mean, you also have to factor in the Notre Dame game. So Notre Dame, you're going to be thrown 2-3 linebacker or 2-3 tight end sets. That's a game that's going to really dictate how people view your season. There's some sense that, you're going to see more linebackers on the field in the most important game, arguably, of your season.
So, Chris, you had Richie at number 18 overall. What are your thoughts on him through spring? We obviously know what he was as a player at Florida. What did you see that made you put him at 18?
I did a good job coming in, handling, the physical part of it as far as like reshaping the body a little bit, getting in shape, getting a feel for how FSU operates with their guards. I expect him to be one of their starting 2 guards. I think him and TJ Ferguson kind of have an inside track on that personally. Keandre Jones, really good player. I think he helps you depth. Bryson Estes, sort of guy that's been waiting, but I don't think he's going to quite kick down the door right now. Yeah. Jacob Rizzi is a guy who might factor into the guard discussion a little bit too this year, even though I think he's more backup center than Maurice, to allow Darius not have to play the center position, which is a good thing for FSU. I just think Richie is one of your 2 top guards. So to me, he's a top 22 player for that reason. I don't overvalue guards because, guards aren't as important as the guys on the outside or the guy snapping the ball. They're next up in that. So he kind of, fit into that spot for me.
I put him at 19. Kev, you put him at 14. What were your thoughts ranking that high?
Yeah, I think this was simply a positional understanding, right? Like he's going to be an offensive lineman. I put offensive lineman relatively high. I think this is going to be an offense that you're going to win and lose based off how much push you're able to get on the offensive line. I just don't think these skill players are going to go out and win you ball games like Keon Coleman could. So you're going to need to win the line of scrimmage. Therefore, a starter on the line of scrimmage was going to be in the upper half of. Well, he's not even in the upper half of starters if you have 22 starters, but he's kind of in that range of, I think he's more important than a linebacker or even one of your corners who could be replaced, but I don't think he's more important than a tackle or something,
Clay Fink dropping the whoa in the chair.
That's the real reason I ranked him low, just to get Clay in his feelings.
Clay will catch feelings about an offensive lineman real quick. All right, let's keep this moving along. I don't think there's a lot of debate in the air for the Richie Leonard ranking overall at 20. It's pretty safe. Hakeem Williams, a lot of red under your name there, Zach. Again, Hakeem coming in at 19 overall for the composite. Zach ranked him at 24. I don't think that's crazy. It's only 5 spots below where he is ranked in the composite. I had him at 16, Brendan at 11, Kev at 19, Chris at 20, Trey at 17, Dane and Clay both at 18.
So can I explain Brendan's ranking?
Yeah, I would love to hear that.
Brendan's belief is he has to be extremely important, and he's a dude that, other than Malik Benson, probably has to be one of your top 2 receivers. So that's why he's ranking him 11. Because I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm ranking him 20 because in the spring he was good, but he wasn't yet ready to be that guy who's 11. But for FSU to be really good this year, he probably needs to be that guy that is 11.
I thought I was going to be the high man at 16, and I was shocked when somebody came in above me, and I ranked him at 16. The same reason I ranked Jalen Lucas at 10, because I'm trying to find explosive playmakers for this offense. And there's, in my opinion, only a handful of them that have the ability to really change the scoreboard, and I bumped all those guys up. Importance
is extremely high.
Yeah.
What he currently is in the singular moment of exiting the spring isn't as high. Correct. Is he capable of that? Yes. And the great thing about Hakeem, I don't want people thinking he was bad in the spring. He wasn't bad in the spring. He was inconsistent in the spring.
Yeah.
The key for Hakeem is just to take another leap. So last year he exited the spring somewhat he exited his initial time at FSU somewhat out of shape, all of this. He rolled into camp and he was in much better shape, did a much better job. He's a guy who was taking big leaps. I'm a firm believer that year 1 to year 2 usually take a biggest leap in your college career. I think he's going to take a big leap. I'm just not ranking him as expecting him to do that. I'm more ranking him on what he was the last time I saw him on a football field.
Zach, you put him at 20. Zach put him at 24, but I want you to take a different swing at this. How important is it for Hakeem? And this is another reason why I ranked him at 16. How important is it for Hakeem to produce on the field this year for Florida State in the recruiting realm?
Oh, it's might be the most important player on the roster to perform well. I think we've talked about on here, like around the OTB, that a lot of schools are trying to negatively recruit Florida State for wide receiver development or lack thereof in the high school ranks, because obviously they just had 2 receivers drafted, but both those guys were portal players. I think you can combat these narratives without, on-field results, but it certainly does help to have, a guy to point to, be like, hey, he's in his second year of the program and he made this kind of leap. Here's where he was when he first came in, and here's how we developed him. So I think he's important on the recruiting show for sure. His development, his continued growth. But just speaking more about my ranking, I totally agree with Brendan and Chris and you, AB. I think he's really important to FSU's offense when it comes to, I had a similar mindset to you, AB. I'm trying to figure out who's going to score points for Florida State. And I think that was hard to do a little bit, just because there's a lot of unproven talent on this roster, a lot of young talent, a lot of unproven players. So thinking through my head, I agree with you guys. Hakeem is an important player this upcoming year, because, outside of Malik Benson, who is arguably unproven himself, he's important, and both those guys need to step up this year if Florida State wants to continue its offensive success it's seen in the past couple of years. So no, as to why I didn't rank him as high, I think I'm in more of Chris's mindset in that, just from what I saw in the spring, I just want to see more. I could certainly see him moving up that list for me if in fall camp he takes that next step that you want. But still waiting to see that, I guess, on my end.
Sure.
So in an offense that's going to be, I think we can all agree it's going to be rather run heavy. So
I think he'll play a lot because of that,
right?
Because
he's a blocker,
blocker.
Right? Yeah. So,
but for them to be who they want to be, the best version of themselves, he's got to be a pass catcher. He's got to be a better version of that. Yeah. And I think that's been conveyed to him. I think exiting the spring, it was wholeheartedly understood by Hakeem Williams, the expectations FSU has for him, and their belief that he can be a great football player for them.
I think that we're going to see the best version of his sophomore self. I don't think we're going to see the best version of himself, but I think we're going to see him take developmental steps this upcoming season. But there's going to be bumps in the road, because he's going to be a true sophomore. And I don't want this to sound like any disrespect towards the program that he came from, but it's been documented that the Stranahan High School, is that correct, is it's not one of the hugest or one of the biggest powerhouses in South Florida.
He's
So
not
there
coming
were
out of
developmental
Aquinas.
delays for him coming in as a football prospect, just coming out of high school. He's got to get caught up to a lot of these guys that played at some of these powerhouses. He chose to stay faithful to his high school, where he was, go through it with those guys and his coaches there. And I got a lot of respect for him for doing that. You could argue maybe it is going to cost him a little bit here in the early portion of his career. But I think in the long run, we all think the sky's the limit for Hakeem. And I think we're going to see a really good version of him this year, just not yet the best version.
If consistency clicks for that guy, like, yeah, he's going to be it. Because he has moments where you're like, man, that is exactly why they recruited him. But the issue is they come and they go, and there's also bad moments mixed in, which is normal for receivers. We have senior receivers on this football team who have that kind of yin and yang of consistency issues.
Mm-hmm.
The key for Hakeem is become the best version consistently of what you're capable of being. Do it play in, play out, every play that you're out there for. And we know you can block, which is a phenomenal quality in a wide receiver. That's usually very tough to kind of breed in him. Hakeem has that naturally. He's great at it. It's probably his greatest strength at this point in his career. You just need him to be a more consistent pass catcher.
Let me pull up this one in the chat. There's a boatload of Elijah Moore hype out there in the world.
I love me some Elijah Moore, but I'll also known that. Brought to you by the Turner Group.
I think if they were the same class, there's some argument there. I mean, Elijah Moore's a more refined player out of high school, but Hakeem's got a whole year of development.
Yeah. Zach, you had some tea on Elijah Moore today. Sounds like things are going well for him in the summer workout so far.
Yeah.
Nope. But I don't think anybody ranked him, and I don't think we didn't rank him for a reason. I think that it's fair to suggest that maybe he's going to participate this year and find his way on the field. But I think that for this season, Hakeem is very important, and it's reflected with his number 19 ranking. Kev, let's keep it sliding along here. We're going to get into number 18. Well, I'm the low man on this totem pole.
Yeah, you are.
Deuce, and he doesn't go by Deuce anymore. Fentrell Cypress the second. Zach had him at 10, or he's at number 18 overall. Zach had him at 10. I had him at 28. Brendan at 18. Kev at 24. Chris at 16. Trey at 12, Dane at 13, and Clay at 20. I guess I'll just kind of get it going with my own personal ranking. I mean, I view him as a starter. I didn't look at this like, oh, my first 22 have got to be guys that are starters. I don't know. My brain doesn't operate that way. I never even in a million years considered if he's a starter for me, he's got to be 1 through 22. I'm weird like that. I can admit that. But 28, I think he's going to be a good corner, but I think they got a lot of good corners. And I think they've got a budding superstar across the field from him who's going to be very shut down, very locked down, and more important, in my opinion. I think you've got a good safety group. I think you're going to have a decent pass rush and a solid defensive line in front of him. Just ultimately, I think he's going to be solid. I think he's going to be a nice player. I don't know if he makes those impact plays that I want to see from a corner for me to push him up the rankings. 28's probably, thinking about it now, hearing everybody talk about, if they're a starter, they gotta be, I probably should have bumped him up a little bit, and maybe moved down, I don't know, I'm looking like Ja'Kai Douglas, maybe move Ja'Kai Douglas down a little bit below, because I don't think Ja'Kai is necessarily going to be a starter. I don't think lowly of Fentrell. I think he's going to be a starting corner. I think he's going to play well for him. I just don't know if he's going to be a big impact guy that I would need out of him to deem him more important for my rankings. But Zach, you've got him at 10. Is he leading the league in interceptions this year?
Yeah, quarterback's one of the most important positions on the field.
It is.
And if you can say that he's a surefire starter at corner, which I think he is, he started last year. I know he split a lot of reps at the end of the year with AZ Thomas, but AZ Thomas is a superstar, and we'll get to that ranking. But yeah, I just think Fentrell, if you can say that he's a surefire starter at one of the most important positions in football, I think he's a top 10 player for me. So I guess that's my reasoning.
So Kev, go ahead. You're Mr. DB.
Yeah, there's a lot of up and coming talent in this corner room specifically. Chris, is there any chance that you're seeing some of these young guys start to split reps with Fentrell by the end. I mean, I think Fentrell is going to be a fine player, but I mean, there are some guys with legitimate NFL upside sitting behind him.
I lean towards no. I think Fentrell is sort of steady Eddie. I know there's once in a while he gives up catches and things like that, but he doesn't give up yards after the catch. Fentrell is a guy who either doesn't allow completion or allows the play to end when it is completed a majority of the time. And I think there's a value to that. I think the fact that AZ is a badass opposite of him and more of a playmaker, more of a guy that can make plays on the ball, I think it's sort of because what is opposite of him in Fentrell. And I know that's kind of weird, but I think there's a degree of like ends play off each other. I think corners play off each other to a degree, and I think Fentrell is that guy for them. No, they they love your boy Q, for example. There's some other corners in the mix that I definitely think they like, and they want to get out there on the field, and they're going to rotate. They're going to do that third series rotation that we're going to complain about week 3 of the season on a podcast. But Fentrell is their dude. He's the guy opposite of AZ, and I don't think anything changes that. That's why my ranking is what it is with him.
Yeah, and I kind of regret because you talk about AZ is going to be a guy that's going to be making all those plays. Well, the ball's got to go somewhere else if the other team, if the opposing offense knows that AZ is going to be a lockdown corner for you. The ball's got to go somewhere, and it's going to be at Fentrell. And I think that we all probably anticipate a bit of a step down in safety play, which probably bumps up the importance of your corner play. So,
the other thing with Fentrell, second-year transfer jump is a real thing.
Yeah, it is a real thing.
I think he will show a little bit more of a willingness to be more aggressive in the scheme than he may have shown last year, where he was relatively very safe and timid a majority of the time.
Yeah, and a lot of the knocks on him last year were a lot of the narrative about his play last year came from a handful of games where he didn't show up in run fits more than necessarily his coverage. He was never a guy that was bad in coverage. Like you said, he gave up a few catches, but he was always pretty solid, what you'd expect.
He's usually Johnny on the spot. He's usually very good at being where he used to be, albeit doesn't always produce the result you may want.
But I know the Duke game specifically shone a light on him in run fits and being a run stopper. They bounced a bunch of runs out at him, but we saw after that game he actually improved quite a bit. So I think I kind of regret where I have him. I wish I would have bumped him up higher. Like I'm looking at what I just have right there, having him behind a Ja'Kai Douglas and a Devontae Brown. It's stupid on my part, but hey, here we are.
I think they're just valuing the young guys. I mean, I think there's a lot of depth in that room. It's not necessarily a list of best players, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, I think we can keep moving here. So we'll bump it up to 17. TJ Ferguson. Zach hates some guards. Zach,
at least
he's consistent. Offensive guards.
I'm really disappointed I didn't win this. I thought I would be the highest ranked, but here's AB, even higher ranked.
I love me some TJ Ferguson and some Richie Leonard.
If TJ can scoot, which is so fun to watch with a guy that big, but he's coordinated when he scoots. And Alex Atkins likes that in a guy. And they loved TJ Ferguson as a high school kid. I'm kind of all in on him. I think he's going to be a starting guard for him. I think he's going to be a crucial piece of what they're going to do as a run game team. I think he's going to be big for DJU as a protection guy too. I just think he's a hell of a player. I don't know why Zach hates guards so much. I don't know what.
Hey, Clay had him ranked the same, so I'm not the.
But I expect more of you, Zachary.
Yeah, Clay. Whoa, what are you doing here? I got DMs about your.
Here's my.
You're talking.
Yeah, here's my thing with TJ Ferguson. He's never played meaningful snaps. So
he was at a school that was effing loaded, though.
Their line was not the strength of that.
No, operation. You're right. That is true.
So that's my main knock on him. I think he can be a really good player. Like he could end up being FSU's second best offensive lineman this upcoming year behind Darius Washington. But I just don't have as much exposure to these guys as Chris Brendan, Dane, and Clay do. So that's kind of my main issue with some of the if I didn't see stuff in spring practice where he was shining, but yeah, I guess just looking at the player, he's a veteran guy, but he just hasn't seen much game action. So I think that's the knock on him for me, but I still have him ranked within starter range, obviously.
One thing I recall from his transfer process was that Bama thought he would probably be a starter for them next year.
Yeah, and
they were
wanted
truthfully
to
a little
center,
surprised he was transferring. I think there was a degree of that, and he was not down for that party.
Yeah.
He that was not his thing. That's not what he wanted to do. All right, AB, why the hell do you love him so much?
Kev's got a point he wants to make it. If Kev wants to talk about offensive linemen, I'm going to allow him to.
Well, the thing is, I'm the only person here that has Richie Leonard higher than TJ Ferguson.
Well, I think that's lunacy.
Well,
here's why.
We watched their film back to back.
Here's why.
Measurements, baby.
Yeah, I think ultimately.
Wait, what do you mean? Dane has him ranked higher?
No, I mean here, right?
Oh,
Dane has him 12th. Dane has him 12th, and he has Richie 12th and TJ 17th.
I can't get by 39 from Zach on Richie. I just get locked on that number.
Here's why I put TJ above Richie. I think Richie's I think Richie is probably going to have a more consistent season this year, but Richie's going to battle some injury bugs because they've bothered him his entire career. He's always a guy like Mo Smith who just is a warrior and is constantly battling through dings and bumps. It is what it is. And I also think TJ's a guy that's got that athletic and body type profile that is like round one NFL profile for NFL teams. So that is why I went higher with him, because I think if he meets his ceiling or close to his ceiling, that's really freaking important for this offensive line.
What scares me about TJ Ferguson was that in his film, he didn't have he didn't have the aggression. He didn't have that gear.
Yeah, we didn't see him finish a lot of blocks in the tape.
Right. His run block, he was a little soft, and like things like that worry me. Like, you can put on a little strength, you can, teach him how to drop step, but that kind of killer instinct isn't something that oftentimes you see people develop if they didn't have it.
It's usually more ingrained.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know you're going to get something out of Richie Leonard, but I agree with you. Like, if TJ Ferguson hits, I mean, he's a stud.
Yeah. So I think there's some question marks there though with him. Spring, how was spring for him? I mean, we had access to the,
he got banged up obviously in the spring game, but he played well overall. The feet is the thing that stands out about TJ. A large body that big, in a way, can kind of dance and move.
Yeah, he moves like a bear. I mean, he is an elite mover at the guard level.
To me, he was consistently one of the two guys at their guard spots.
Yeah. I'm bullish on what he's going to become. I wasn't when they took him at first, because we watched the tape. We watched them against USF, and there was not a ton of movement. But I don't know. That Bama offense was weird last year.
Zach will probably agree with this point. There's guys that enter the portal that you just go, oh yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
TJ Ferguson, knowing Alex Atkins' affinity for him, he was sort of one of those.
Yeah.
And when Atkins has a thing for a guy in his group who he thinks is good, who also comes in and works pretty hard, which TJ has since he arrived at FSU, you just feel like that marriage is going to work out pretty good.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, and we've discussed, and I'll just kind of say why I think 12 and 19 is fair. Outside of that, we project them to be starters in the upcoming season at guard for Ferguson and Leonard. I think they help Mo Smith out a ton. Having two solid guards next to him, I think, helps him out quite a bit. And then ultimately, we do believe maybe they're going to be more of a duo run game kind of team, which puts a little more pressure on your offensive guards, getting more vertical movement. So we'll see whether that pans out or not. But ultimately, I mean, this offensive line needs to be good. They want to be a running football team. They want to be able to do that with DJU as your quarterback and trying to get more play action shots. So I think the five offensive linemen as a whole are going to be extremely important to what you want to do outside of the normal years where you need your line to just be solid. So, Kev, let's keep it rolling here. Number 16, Jeremiah Byers. I say all that, and I've got him 21, but I felt like, and Chris is going to say the same thing here, I felt like I had to bump him down a little bit. Kev, or you guys on one of the OTBs were naming my guys or whatever you guys are calling it, and Byers got given to me. because Chris and Byers had a divorce or
divorce, baby.
Yeah.
Like I love the kid a year ago. I still like Jeremiah. Jeremiah's gotten himself in better shape.
Yeah.
I just need him to be it. And there's
He
still
looks-
Aaron Hester's, and I'm not trying to diminish Aaron Hester because he had a good spring, but Aaron Hester's spring success that had in the spring game that had everybody so excited. Some of it came against Jeremiah, and like there's just a degree of I think there are things with Jeremiah that he just doesn't handle well, and it's more I think a mental issue with the game than a physical issue with the game, and he's in very good shape, but like. I just think there's some mental things that he struggles with, and he's going to be a good player. He's going to be a starting tackle for this team, so he has a great deal of value. That's why I still have him in my top 22. But like, Clemson won't go away for me. Like I can't wash away Clemson easily, and I hope he exceeds my expectations and turns into a Billy badass and turns into a first-round pick because I like the kid. I think the world of the kid. There's so much about him that is so good. It's a little bit of bad that just diminishes my opinion of him. And I'll shut up about it now.
He's got a chance to be – he has the potential to be not the best because I think TJ Ferguson's ceiling is higher there just because of some of the height, weight, speed stuff. He's got a shot to be one of the best. And, I mean, ultimately, a lot of it's got to do with his ability to get his foot in the ground and punch at the same time. And I'm like you. I think it's a mental thing. They know what's going on. They're actively trying to work on it and get him better at it and get that coached out of him. It hasn't stuck yet. At this point, what he's a senior this year?
Yeah. And it's a good example of hoping the second year transfer jump happens. But the fact it still showed up in the spring and certainly in the spring game
should have happened already.
Yeah. Like
it's been a problem. They've known it's been a problem. It hasn't gotten resolved yet.
Dude gets 75 reps in a game and he's really, really good for like 70 of them. But there's a tough time getting beyond the 5. And sometimes among those 5 is 1 or 2 that can cause a catastrophic play that literally can lose to you losing a football game because ball gets stripped, quarterback gets rushed, bad throw happens, or somebody gets hurt because they get hit. And it's just so damn difficult to like get away from those handful of bad moments and solely lean into the fact that he's really good a majority of the time. And he really is. Like, if you take all of his reps off of last year, he is good probably 80% of the time. And then there's 15 where he's in, and there's 5% where he's just dreadful. And there's those moments that are so tough to walk away from.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point because, like, you go back and look at just the spring showcase. I think it's the first play he gets beat by Marvin Jones Jr. And then after that, he shuts him down. And everybody was raving about Marvin Jones Jr.'s spring performance. And they're losing that aspect that, I mean, Byers really played very well against him. But then Byers has one series against Aaron Hester that he gets beat on a couple plays, and it's, the end of the world. We've got to get a new starting right tackle, yada, yada, yada. So I'm kind of with you. It's those 5 plays a game that are just going to – and they always seem to be at crucial times. I can think of 4 or 5 examples from last year on a short third down run. They're trying to run behind him, and he just doesn't make the block. It just, for whatever reason, guy gets across his face or whatever. Like, those things have got to get out of his game. If you could promise me those things would not be in his game for this upcoming season, I would have him in the top 10. But I just can't. Can't do it.
I didn't realize we were doing the best players, the 40 best players on FSU's roster.
It's most important, isn't it?
Well, you've got a position where you don't have much depth at all, and you've got a player who can either be the best tackle on the field or the worst tackle on the field. I would say that's pretty important.
It's a fair case. It's a fair case. But
if Jeremiah Byers doesn't show up, I mean, what are you going to do about it?
Kev, have you seen the Elite 11 rankings? We treat this very much the same way. Some people consider a guy 1, some people consider him 11, some people consider him 6. It just is what it is, buddy.
Yeah, I just want to go because I'm the outlier here again.
Why do you hit the O-line, Zach?
I think I'm literally the outlier in every single one of these guys, by the way. No, I think with Byers, like, I probably should have ranked him higher because I do agree with Kev's point. Like, whether he's good or bad, his play is super important. But he's so unreliable. And I've just heard a lot of good stuff about him in almost every facet of being an offensive lineman besides, certain protections in pass pro. Like that is, a huge issue, obviously. And it's on full display last year, especially against Clemson, like you guys mentioned. So I just can't get that out of my head. And yeah, it's just, it's tough. But I probably should have ranked him a little bit higher.
I think this is a solid question. If Byers is the liability, who's coming in? Is Rob Scott going to be a guy that's available? Because I don't think any of us ranked him. I think one person, I think Brendan ranked Rob Scott like 41st or 42nd or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard recently that he'll be good to go.
Yeah, I've seen him around the facility with being out there for recruiting. He's back to being healthy as far as not having any support on his legs, crutches, things of that sort. He's working back to it. The thing with Rob is just consistency of health. He's dealt with a decent amount of ailments, and some of them being kind of consistent, same things. He's gotten those cleaned up. The hope is that now he's healthy, get himself back in really good shape, be a contributor. Atkins, the O-line group as a whole, they have shown that they are willing to rotate and change, play 3 guards for the 2 spots. I think they would certainly do that at tackle. I think with Byers, I don't want to speak out of turn for the staff or act like I know exactly the way of thinking. I think their hope with Byers is that he becomes better at losing those individual reps and it not turning into sort of a waterfall effect, like what we saw at Clemson, basically. But I think the hope inverse of that is that you also have another guy you can quickly slide in there and not have a steep fall off. And yeah, Rob Scott fits into that. I don't think Lucas Simmons is quite ready for prime time. The fact that he was relatively unavailable last year set him back a little bit, but he is a guy they like. Andre Otto is a guy who can play inside or outside, and they absolutely love him. And boy, am I buying on that one long term. Yeah. But I think that year 2 is quite not the time for him.
You don't want to play him
into that. Yeah. So yeah, I think Rob is a guy. Again, it's half of the role with O-line is beyond a guy just being an exceptional player. Do they know how to lose? Capable of losing? Are they capable of moving on to the next rep? Yeah. And there were times last year where Byers simply struggled with that, or what bit him in the butt. Repeatedly bit him in the butt, and he just couldn't handle it because it just kept happening. Clemson being the most, outwardly version of that. So, I think Rob is the guy.
Yeah, one other player to mention there in that pool of players is Jalen Early.
That's another good one to mention, and he's a guy that Atkins loves. Early he's put on good weight again. He kind of got not thin, but I think he was about 280s. I think he's more around 300 these days. He's a guy very well liked within the program, and Jalen's a guy that, like, when Atkins talks about his O-line, he always goes out of his way to kind of mention Jalen if you didn't bring him up beforehand.
And I think that's important because when this staff seems to go out of their way to mention, well, really, if any staff goes out of the way to mention guys, it's because they're at the forefront of their mind and they want you to know what they think about them.
Atkins doesn't say nice things just for the hell of it.
No, he doesn't. Neither does Mike Norvell.
Like that's not his MO. Like Atkins is about as straightforward as they get, and I think he is with those guys in that room privately too. So yeah.
All right, let's keep it rolling here, Kev. 15. We're slowly crawling our way to number 11. Kyle Morlock.
I can't believe you guys made me be the lowest on Kyle Morlock.
No, you're the highest.
The highest, buddy.
Lowest number, but
all right,
highest on him.
I'm just going to jump. He's at 15 overall in the composite. Zach has him at 16. I have him at 17.
Chris, answer for your crimes right now.
I love tight ends, so it's not even like I hate the position. I don't mean this rudely. I think Kyle Morlock is the most replaceable starter on FSU's football team.
How is that?
Well,
okay,
hold on. No, go ahead, Kev. Go ahead.
How is that not supposed to be rude?
It's not supposed to be rude. I think Kyle Morlock is a good football player. I think he's serviceable. I don't think he's a playmaker for FSU. Maybe he makes a second-year jump and becomes more of that. But last year, it was sort of like he was just a guy on the field doing what was asked of him, and he did a good job doing that. And, hey, that's cool. That's sort of half the job, and that's what we're asking for. For FSU to be a better football team, they need more out of tight end position. I don't know that Kyle Morlock provides that. I guess that's the most simple way I can put it. but I don't think he's a bad player. I don't want it to be conveyed that I think this isn't Richie Leonard at 39, Zachary, but like
you're just gonna keep going back to that.
But I just think he's so like. I think Landon Thomas is a guy that can be so much more for them. Now that's asking a hell of a lot of guy first year in the program, true freshman, all of that. I just think he can provide so much more. Kyle Morlock isn't going to provide you sort of the Jaheim Bell juice. So like I can't get behind it. Like I struggle. And I knew I was going to be ranked really low on him. I'm amazed I'm the lowest. I figured somebody would screw up more than me and rank him lower. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Kev, you're at 13. I mean,
okay, I feel like
you are Mr. Morlock.
I feel like I'm getting the rug pulled under me here. I feel like I've been like, you guys. I mean, duped? Morlock. He commits. Everybody's like, this guy's 6'14". He is the best receiver. He's the best receiving tight end you've ever seen. The guy's unreal. Like Alabama, Georgia.
He's Kelsey if Kelsey went to shorter.
The Chiefs are freaking giving this guy calls. They want him. And I'm like, hold the brakes. Let's see how this guy plays. And then all season, I'm like, yeah.
Look at you now.
He failed to block counter again. Yeah, he failed to block counter again. Oh, yeah, here he is not blocking counter. And everybody else is telling me that this guy's going to be great next year. Everybody's telling me this guy's going to be great next year. And so I'm like, I don't want to seem like an outcast putting him at 25. So I'm gonna go with the flow.
So you're blaming
you guys
us
just pull,
ranking.
I think so. I think
you just pull the rug out.
I actually said hi to Kyle today, and thought in my head, "Damn, I ranked you so low, man."
I hope he proves me right.
I'm with Chris. I mean, I don't expect some major leap in production from Kyle Morlock, but I don't think they've got another tight end behind him that's ready to play, and Mike's married to the tight end position. He loves that position. They're going to play 11 and 12. He's important because he's the only one that's really going to be ready to play the position this season. They lost Biscuit. They didn't bring in anybody. Not that Biscuit was the greatest player on the face of the planet, but he was a competent player you could put out there in packages and let play a little bit. So you lost him. You bring in a true freshman, and he's super talented, but I don't know if he's going to be ready to really contribute a lot for more than half the season. And then what? I mean, I love Jackson West. Chris, I know you love him too.
When I get to write the sidebar, it will be like the completion of the dream.
I mean, I can't bank on him being healthy all season long. And I love the kid, but I love his game. And he's a guy that you want to have in there in your blocking packages, but he's got to show he can be healthy and catch the ball. I mean, he alligator armed the hell out of that catch in the spring showcase. It came down with it, but it was not pretty by any stretch of the imagination. And imagine that in a real game. It's scary. That position's scary for me.
I will say one thing I struggled with is I think tight end is going to be immensely important from a blocking standpoint. Yeah. And I don't love Kyle Morlock as a blocker. So, that's the other thing for me is that, and that's why I do like Landon so much. Landon is a stick the nose in the fan physical kind of guy, and Chris Thompson has praised him for that. Jackson West is a pissant when it comes to blocking. Like, he's a rude dude. And, if Jackson West can finally be what I have built him up to be, my God, it would be glorious.
Kev, I called him a future Chris, I called him a future all-pro. So,
but I'm hesitant to say it because it's never been put on film. It's never been done consistently in game, and a lot of that's been health. Yeah. So, I'm not ready to do it. I just feel like that position needs Kyle Morlock's going to be important to what FSU does at tight end this year, but we need the collection of goods at that position be good. It's not solely a dude that's going to be good. Last year it was Jaheim Bell. Jaheim Bell was a different kind of cat with some juice to him who could do things down the field. And when you get the ball in his hands, it was going to be fun to watch. They don't have that. That position is going to be a collection of goods, and it's got to be more than what it's ever been to this point with the guys in that room.
They had a 6'10" offensive line prospect on campus.
This is Zach's answer.
This weekend or this week. When was he on campus? And they were talking about
Monday to Wednesday, buddy. But Monday to Wednesday's new Friday to Sunday. I mean, it's just a weekend during the week.
Oh man.
I was going to give you the recruiting angle of this. There's a reason why FSU pitched a 6'10", 300-pound
Red flag.
offensive tackle, basketball turned football prospect on playing tight end for a year as he transitions to the offensive tackle, left tackle position, which, isn't a crazy transition, but it is kind of a crazy, proposition a little bit. It doesn't matter because he's not going to end up at Florida State. We're talking about Jazir Jackson, by the way. He won't end up at FSU, barring something unexpected from what I've heard. But that was intriguing. That it's pretty clear that they view that as a position where someone could come in and play this year.
I damn near went in and bumped Kyle Morlock up to like number 2 because that just reeks of they don't have a tight end they're very confident in as an inline blocker over the course of the year. So this position worries me. It's why I put him at 17. I really kind of thought I was going to be the high man at 17. I was shocked when I saw Kevin Little.
I got you, AB.
Hey, I appreciate that.
Trey got you too. Light bright over there has got you, and then I got you.
Kev, let's keep it rolling at 14. Big Mo, I don't know. I think I screwed this one up at 26.
The snapping center.
You did.
Is snapping important to you?
It's not, because I think they got a couple of the guys that are going to be able to snap. Mo, no, I mean, snapping, of course, snapping is important, but not in the weird way that Brendan makes it important. I think they've actually got a couple of guys that can play center finally behind Mo. And Mo's he's always
who are the guys that can play center? Like Darius Washington, you're going to pull him from your left tackle spot.
Well, that's why they brought Jacob Rizzi.
Yeah,
Jacob Rizzi was brought in specifically to be.
Oh, that's another guy.
He's got to learn the offense.
Guy. Right,
yeah.
He's a 2-year guy arriving late. So to me, Rizzi is sort of your break glass if needed guy at center and at guard, where he adds value. And I think Rizzi is a guy that learns a great deal this year.
This kid
integrates himself in the system, and he plays a lot in year 2. And I think that's sort of the concept in taking it.
You got Richie. We know Richie could play center if need be. I'm lower on him than I should be. I can admit that. It was one of those ones I kind of put him in there. I was like, shit, I should have him higher, but I'm not going to go in and redo this. But ultimately, I mean, I just think that Mo he's just Mo. I mean, he's just a tough dude. There's a lot to give him credit for there. But in the end, I mean, he's hurt all the time. I don't think he's the best player in the world. I just found myself putting other guys ahead of him. So it's not.
I'm just proud that Zach didn't hate him.
Yeah, Zach's got him at 12.
The random interior offensive line.
Zach's got him at 12. What?
Zach loves center take guards.
Centers are more important than guards.
Don't let Brandon.
He is a Brendan understudy. Can you tell?
Don't let Brendan brainwash you with all this. He snaps the ball before anybody else touches the ball. He's got to be the most important player. Don't let him do that to you, Zach.
I kind of want Clay to explain himself. I think AB just veered off course, but Clay, whoa, what are we doing here, buddy?
Well,
why do you hate guards and centers?
Yeah, 19 for Byers, 21 for Ferguson, 22 for Mo, but he's got Richie at 14. Yeah, I kind of need Clay in here to.
I can't help it. Mo Smith to me is a boxer. Like literally every time you expect him to get knocked down, he strikes you back, drives you in the corner, puts you down, wins in 12 rounds, gets the judge's decision. It's just what Mo Smith does. And the other thing I know about Mo Smith is Jordan Travis would tell you he swears by that dude more than about any other soul on the football team. That holds weight with me, always did. I think Mo is kind of their guy.
Yeah, this probably sums it up really well. And ultimately, I don't think I captured that well enough when I ranked him. And I'm happy to sit here and admit that. I'll support some of my other crazy ones. This one, I think I dropped the ball. Kev, you've got him at 10, though. How are you going to blame Chris and Zach and Brendan for ranking him 10th overall?
What do you mean?
Is snapping important to you, Kev?
That's somebody's fault. You
the last guy you ranked high was our fault. So let's go.
Look, I think I'm just valuing the offensive line. I think I'm having a shift of perspective. I mean, Coach AB's really getting to me.
I kind of thought Kev was going to say, who else touches the ball every play?
I mean, it's the center of the offense. I mean, that's pretty important.
Touché.
They don't call him, center for no reason. No, I think it comes back to why I rated Byers high, why I rated Richie Leonard high. I think the offensive line is going to dictate how far your offense goes this year. And I don't love your center depth. So he's more important. I think I have both tackles above him at like 8 and 9, and then him at 10, because I think he's the third most important offensive line. And I think your offense is going to go as far as your offensive line is willing to take them.
No, I'll bank with that. Let's switch our names there so I can have him at 10 and you at 26. And you look like the fool. 13, where are we at? Roydell. This is an interesting one. So he's at 13. Zach's
Dane.
got him at 17. Yeah, Dane's the outlier here. I don't look at Zach and be like, oh, he's way off.
Zach can have the excuse. He wasn't a regular at practices. Dane saw enough practice at 25. A little bit effing nuts, if I'm being honest here. Like, I love you, Dane.
Hell. So the rest of us have him in that 15, 11 or 9, 9 with Trey and Clay. Chris, you've got him at 12. I have him at 11. Kev's got him 11. Brendan 16. Zach 17. I don't feel like those are outliers, but Dane at 25. Chris 12. You have any idea why Brendan put him at 16? I don't feel like that's interesting.
I don't know Brendan's offensive skill rankings. I know he had Hakeem high, so that's one note that's going to slide everybody down a little bit. But I don't know. I'm surprised by it. I think Roydell is going to be as much of a workhorse as a running back can be in Florida State's offense. Yeah. And as our boy Kev has been beating the drum here as we've gone 20-11, the O-line is going to be a very, very important piece to this. Why? Because they're going to run the ball. And I think they're going to run the ball a hell of a lot. And I think Roydell is sort of the dude that's going to do that. We know LT is sort of what he is. Good runner, good receiver, a little bit of like a mixed bag for you. And there's other pieces in that room that they like, but Roydell is sort of if you got to hand it off, he's probably the dude you're handing it off to more often than not kind of guy.
Yeah.
And to me, that's why he's ultra important, because I do think they're going to be a run-based offense. They're going to set up shots, but to do that effectively, you got to run the ball effectively. And I don't think they're going to run wild with DJU. I think they'll run them some, but I think Roydell is probably your guy that's your primary rusher, in addition to Lawrence Toafili being a very crucial piece of the offense too, especially as a veteran.
Yeah, I have a pocket. I believe I've got LT at 9, Jalen Lucas at 10, Roydell at 11, because I just think those three are going to be very feature key pieces for your offense this upcoming season.
Here's why I have Roydell a little bit lower than I think I ranked LT, if I remember correctly. LT is a receiving threat.
Yeah.
More of a receiving threat. And that is a way bigger need for Florida State than what they need out of the running back group. I feel really good about the top to bottom depth of that room. And I know you lose Trey Benson, but this staff believes that running back room is better than it was last year. So I think Roydell Williams is going to be an important piece of the offense. But when it comes to all of the ability that's involved in someone's game, I just think Lawrence Toafili is way more important to Florida State this season.
Yeah, Trey would be here right now if he were with us. He'd be screaming at me about number of touches and all these things he did last week. I have Roydell Williams ranked a third of that trio with LT and Jalen Lucas, because while I think he's going to be the most consistent and the workhorse type, I think that LT and Jalen Lucas present you with the most explosivity. And in my opinion, for this upcoming season, that's going to be super important for them. They're going to need explosive plays to put points on the scoreboard. It just feels like they lack some explosiveness. And the guys that are going to that lean on the more explosive side with LT and Jalen Lucas, I'd put over top of the guys that are going to be your steady Eddie 4-yard, 5-yard types.
This might be a controversial take, but I think Roydell might be your best skill player.
In what regard?
I think Malik Benson is personally.
Yeah, I do too.
I would say 1 and 2 there. I think.
Are we solely talking scoreboard lighting?
No, I'm just talking about just like if I were to give them a numerical rank, like if I was making NCAA 25, and I
Kev is so excited that video games coming back.
Oh hell yeah!
And I had to give a number rank. I think he's a better player than LT.
Because you're going to give it to him 15 times a game?
I think he's got really good vision. I think that I don't know. I really value a running back that can get you 5 or 6 yards. Like that can get 3 yards minimum, kind of deal. I think he's a guy that I think his ceiling's pretty high. I mean, he's Trayshawn Ward, but with a little bit extra speed, and I think that's something that'll play.
I love Roydell. I'm very high on him. I think he's an excellent player. He had a very good spring, super consistent. He's built like a brick shit house, which is great, thing to have. I just think he's the kind of guy that FSU is not so much one that uses a singular guy to wear down a team, but when they do have to lean on a team late in games, I think Roydell is the kind of guy you can lean on to do that.
I think he presents a different type of upside from what you had in Trey Benson last year. Trey was a guy that could take it 80, 90 at any point. Roydell's a guy that you're going to know is going to get you the yards that the play presents itself every time he goes out and touches the ball. And that's going to be really valuable for a team that's going to need to stay ahead of the chains this upcoming season. All right, Kev. I mean, outside of Dane just being completely a lunatic, Zach, I expect you to yell at Dane later about that.
Gotcha.
But let's keep it rolling here. We all love Roydell. LT, here it is, number 12 overall. Ooh,
damn, I love LT.
This is polarizing.
Okay, yes. All right, there's a
So,
lot of red.
Here's the thing with LT. He can light up the scoreboard. And and we've kind of talked about this. Offensively, they're going to need a dude that when they have to have points, they know they can go to him. And other than Malik Benson, for me, offensively, LT is that guy.
Yeah.
And they love him. Internally, he is well loved.
Dude, it's the receiving threat, man. That's what it is. You lack proven production and guys that you think you're going to be able to consistently rely upon at the receiver room. So what do? You take maybe your best running back and you put him out at wide receiver. We've seen what he can be out there. Yeah. And all reports out of spring is that he improved as a traditional running back too.
Yeah.
So I think he's the full package. I think he's like, I've talked to a lot of people like just about LT this offseason and like he's the perfect example of like what a Mike Norvell like development looks like of a player within this program. Like he's just like described to me as like the best teammate, like just totally bought in, fully understands the system. So like all that combined just makes me think he's going to be a dude for FSU this upcoming year. And we saw him make so many pivotal catches, runs over the past however many years. And I just think he's going to put it all together in 2024.
So, Kev, Dane's not here to explain why he hates running backs. So you have to explain why you hate LT.
Yeah, I mean, I guess memories are still looming from 2 years ago where he just frankly wasn't a very good backfield runner.
2 years ago?
And then last year he was
better. Do you remember how young Zach looked 2 years ago? Look at him now.
Last year he was okay, but not a great backfield runner. You can't tell me he was.
When
I'm just not gonna rank a guy that I think
he legitimately won the ACC. Like he scored he's essentially why you scored any points in the ACC.
He was your quarterback.
I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit here, Kev.
I
didn't rank him last year. I didn't even rank him last year. I had him unranked.
I don't think he's your best running back.
LT rehab and look at him now.
It's not about running back. He's not just a running back.
He's always been a guy, and we've watched him on counter. He's always been a guy that's been a good running back. He's always been able to get the yards that present themselves. He runs with toughness. He's just never a guy that you felt like could go out there and give you 20 carries a game. And I'm not sure he's going to be that this year. I mean, I think they ultimately probably want Roydell to.
I don't think you need him to be though.
No, I agree with you.
Even when Benson was in that offense, they didn't have him run 20 times a game.
So there's a degree of me that thinks FSU's offense this year, and I think High Noel, I can't do the chat because I'm not logged in because but High Noel kind of nailed this. I think this offense this year at FSU is going to be more Memphis-like than anything we've dealt with in Mike's time at FSU.
Yeah, I agree.
And to me, LT is 100% that kind of dude that he did some things at Memphis with. I just think he's like, to me, if you're doing a game plan, especially early in the year, it's sort of going to boil down to offensively, who do we believe in? And to me, LT, the way they speak of him, they believe in him more than pretty much anybody else on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I forget what Mike's comment was, but it was sort of like he gave us everything we wanted to see in the spring. We kind of, peeled back a little bit to keep him healthy, but we know who and what he is. That sticks with me, and that's what LT is to me. So sorry, Kev, but you're wholeheartedly wrong.
But okay, so we give AB crap.
Oh,
yeah, putting Jalen Lucas at 10.
Bring it on.
Who's just Lawrence Toafili, but more athletic.
Yeah, but he's also smaller and can do less.
I don't know if he's more athletic. I don't know if I agree with that.
He's pretty.
He's juicy.
I'm
not saying he's not. Kid's explosive.
Out of high school.
I think LT can be used more often in more basic regular play sets. Like Jalen, a little bit more by design. Like this play might go to the house because
when you're going into game one, or Chris, you were just talking about it. Like, do I think LT is going to touch the ball 20 times? No. I think LT is probably going to touch the ball in a game. In the game plan, you're planning on him touching the ball 12 times. But they are going to be such efficient and explosive 12 touches that he's just that freaking important to this offense. I don't think you could say that about anybody else. I think the only other player that you can come close to saying that about is going to be Jalen Lucas, and that's why I had him right behind LT. He's a guy that's going to touch the ball 6, 7, 8 times, but they're going to be super explosive plays and very efficient and effective. Kev's mind is blown.
Hey, no, I think you're effing brilliant, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome,
Chris. Freaking big guys, man. Shout out to my homie. Yeah, we do. Kev is trying to find stats right now to crap on LT.
He's crunching numbers.
He is actively
move to the next.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling, then we come back to
I control that, Zach.
No, keep it rolling. Come on. Number 11, the finish. How did he end up at 11? I guess we all were right there.
Well, I nailed this.
Yeah,
as did Dane. About damn time Dane nailed something.
Nice job, dirty Dane Draper. You finally got one right. Number 11, Earl Little Jr., transfer out of Alabama. Zach had him at 15. I've got him at 14. Brendan 13. Kev hates transfers and LT. Kev had him at 21. Chris, you had him at 11. Spot on. Trey at 14. Dane at 11. Clay at 10. I don't think there's a whole lot to say here. He plays the nickel
Kev, are you ready to explain yourself after having to explain yourself?
I'm going to be honest. It shocked me you got him at 21.
Yeah.
I thought we came away pretty bullish on Earl.
You're allowed to just say you got it wrong.
Yeah, I messed up. I messed up on that one. I think.
Is it our fault again?
To be fair, 11 is high. I think 11's a little bit high for a position that I think you've got some really some talent behind him.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and he's still relatively unknown. What's funny is that the highest ranking of him is 10, and he ended up at 11.
Yeah,
he becomes more important with the departure of Greedy Vance too.
But he's the reason Greedy Vance left.
Yeah,
he is Greedy knew. Greedy he lost his starting job to Earl Little, and
there's nuance.
Greedy's going to go to there is. Greedy's going to go to USC, play a ton, make more money than he would have made at FSU. I'm not acting like that doesn't exist, but Greedy, I think, understood that. Like Earl came in, and that's a dude. Like he's going to play more than me. And Greedy, I loved what Greedy became at FSU, and FSU loved Greedy. I might be going a bit too far. I heard a coach on the phone with, I believe, USC kind of explaining, like, Greedy's a dude. Like, yeah, hell yeah, take him. He's competitive as hell. He's from the boot. He busts his ass. He's a good football player. You're going to pay him more. Cool. Yeah, there's that degree of it to me. Like, I just think Earl's a dude. There are people in the building who think Earl was like a no doubt NFL guy as a high schooler, and they are so damn pleased they got him the second time.
Shit, Adam Fuller has said as much. He has come out and said as much. I put Earl Little at 14. I had to get those offensive guys above him, or he would have cracked my top 10. I've got him above Fentrell Cypress just because ultimately I just think his ceiling is so freaking high.
More of a playmaker.
Yeah, he's just gonna. I just think he has the potential to make so many plays that makes him so important for this defense in the upcoming season.
So, Kev, why do you hate him?
I think I'm just jealous. He's wearing my last name better than I am.
Oh, you're not a junior though.
You guys related?
Yeah.
In the end, I don't think there's a lot to say here. We're getting to the top 10. We know who these guys are. We know how important they're going to be. All of them. we're talking 1 or 2 spots. The only outliers were Zach just hating offensive guards, Kev hating LT, Dane hating everybody.
Especially running backs.
Especially running back.
They're not important in a run-heavy offense. Hell.
We're going to put a bell on this one. I want to say thank you to everybody that came out. You guys have been great. We've had like 1,500 people in all of these, the first 3 so far. We will be back next week. Brendan will be back with us, and I think he's got a bunch of hot takes ready. And I think he's ready to kind of bust my balls a little bit about some of our rankings. So we'll be back next week with Brendan to break down the top 10. I want to say thank you again to Chris and to Zach to taking time out of their night to join us with this. This was a lot of fun. There was a lot of good laughs had tonight, a lot of good conversation. And I think some good perspective given on a lot of the football players. Not so much by Kev because he just pointed the finger at everybody and blamed us all. With that,
Zach hates guards.
Yeah, Zach hates guards, and I hope Richie Leonard calls you on it. I hope he's calling you right now to let you know you're in tally. You better get it right. Oh, Max Buchanan, hold on. Is that the recruit, Max Buchanan?
No way.
Oh, wow. Oh, you got a lot of
Max. Nothing against you, I swear.
Do not hate guards.
He loves centers, Max. You can snap, buddy. You're good. You're good in his world.
I was high on Maurice Smith.
That is classic right there. All right. Awesome. With that, Max, thank you for being in here, man. Big fan of your game. But we're going to call it a night here. I guess Trey would say keep chopping. So keep it up.